right, so to take a look at the interface, you need to create a brand new page. So I'm going to come over here and add a new page. So I'm going to call this interface, and then click on use Divi Builder. Now, of course, you can name your page whatever you want. It doesn't really matter, okay? You can name it whatever you want. As soon as you create your page, the first thing you're going to notice is this section here. Okay, so with this section here, it's the main part of your building blocks that separates your main content on your website. Next, we have what are known as rows, and these rows come in different columns. So this column here is just one massive column, and this is two equal columns, three equal columns, and so on. So we're going to start off with one column like that. So this is a row with one column. Next, this is where we get to add a module. So in most cases, we use text modules. So I'm going to add my text modules. So as you've noticed, there's three layers to this. We have our section, we have our row, we have our column, and then we have our module. And with these modules, you can add, many modules as you want. You can add a blurb here. You can do all sorts of things. Okay. Now, if you want to add another section, you click here on this plus button. So just remember that every time you want to add something, it's the plus button. So I've just clicked here. In fact, let me do that one more time. If you want to add another section, you click here on this plus button. And then again, you go through the same process. How many columns do you want to have? Maybe this time you want to have two. And in the first column, what are you going to have? Maybe a blurb. You select it like that. And then now you can either duplicate it, and then of course this is drag and drop. You can click drag and drop like that. Okay, so now this section and this section are now totally different. So this is the way that you need to be using the builder. Every time you want to add something, it's the plus button. And if you want to add, let's say, a section, a row, and a column, that is the logical way that you have to be building any elements on your website, and that doesn't change at all throughout all your designs. Now, as you can see, we've added all our elements. Let's talk about the next part of this builder, which is really, really powerful, and that is the design tab. So over here, we are in the actual module. Okay, so each module has these three options here. We have the content, we have the design, we have the advanced. So in this text module here, with our content selected, this is where we can go in and edit this. Okay, so let's say you want to make this a heading 1, we can highlight it here, set this to heading 1, and it updates. Okay, if you want to duplicate it, we can duplicate it here, and so on. But there's going to come a time where you want to style it, and this is where now you go into the design tab. This is where you go into the text. You can change your font text. You can change it here. If you want to change the font weight, you can come over here, change the font weight. So if I say bold, you can see it right away here, it has gone bold. Okay. Now, if you want to reset this field, you can just reset by clicking on that little icon. Now, there's also this uppercase. You can set this to italicized. So there's all these things that you want to do, but they're on the design tab. Okay. You can go further down here, the colors, the text size, the letter spacing, and so on. So as you're designing, just remember that this is where you add your content. This is your design tab. And then the advanced tab has also its features where you can add your CSS ID and classes. You can add your custom CSS, and you can target specific items here: before, main element, after, and so on. And we also have our interactions, we have visibility, we have scroll effects. So these three all make all the changes that you want on each and every module. But it doesn't only happen on this module. Now, before I talk about the next part, If I choose this blurb, the blurb is going to have, different items. For example, here on the text one, it had less because it's just the text. But with the blurb now, you notice that I can go in here and add an icon by coming over here. And this is something that the text one doesn't have. That's because this is a more advanced module. So each module will have its own content to add. It will have its own design elements. For example, here I can go in and do a few more things to my icon. I can change the icon size and so on. So for example, here I can set this to 3rem, and that is how I'm adjusting my sizes. We also have the advanced for this particular item. Now, what you're going to notice throughout all this is whatever I click on, this over here is going to activate. So let's say I click on this one right here. Now I can go straight in and start customizing this. If I click on this one, I go straight away and start customizing this. Okay. So back to what I was mentioning in terms of customizing whatever element that you have selected. So the moment you select it, you're going to be greeted with these 3 tabs. They follow you everywhere. It just depends on what you're working on. So at the moment, I can select my section here, and it has different items to work on. So I can come over here, I can choose a color, and maybe I want to add a background color. So that's my section right there. It also has the design, but it has less items on the design as compared to the other modules. Okay. I can also do the same. If I click here on row settings, it also has its content. So I can add 2 columns here if I want to, or I can delete one of them just to go back to how we were. It has its own settings as well. I can add my background. So I can go in here and choose a color. And this color now gets applied to my row. Okay, so each row has its own items. I can go into design. I can set out my layout. I can set out, my width. There's so many things I can do. I can also go to advanced and so on. Now, while we have this row selected, remember, we have columns. We can also go into the columns here by clicking on this little gear icon. Now, the columns is the only item that you cannot target over here, okay? It can be found over here. So the column as well, you can go in and add your background color. I mean, you can pretty much add, whatever you want. Now, I know you're probably saying, well, but the column here is covering the background color of the section, okay? I mean, of the column. Well, I mean, of the row. What am I talking about? This row is covering the color of the what? Of the row. Okay. So right now it's not visible because I haven't added any padding to this. If I go in and add a bit of padding by coming over here to spacing. So let's add 4rem. Okay. You'll start to see my color now is starting to be revealed now in the row background. So let's do this 4rem as well here. There we go. So now you can see clearly what is happening. This is our section, this is our row, and this is our column. How many columns do we have? 1. Now, if we want to add 2 columns, how do we do it? We can either come over here and change the structure. Boom. Okay, now we have 2 columns. I know there's nothing added here, but I've changed my structure to this. I can take it back here to a single column. But the other way I can do this as well is if I want to duplicate what I have right now, I can just come over here and boom. Now I have 2 columns which have the same information. I can even go as far as saying I want 3 columns, I want 4 columns, and so on. Okay, so the columns have a different color, the rows have a different color, and then the section here has a different color. But just remember that every item you select here, it has these 3 options. So the row, it has the design, the advanced, the column has the design advanced, and the actual module itself has the design and advanced. Anyway, I hope that clears up how the interface works. This is only part 1. Let's dive into part 2 so we can dive into more things that you need to know about the builder.